Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. My goal is to be unbiased and transparent. It's a privilege to serve you. This is not an endorsement. Let's get into it. Hey, we're downtown Long Beach and we're checking out a new one from Gazelle. This is the Arroyo C8 Elite, and we've actually got the original Arroyo C8 here. These are both North America bikes that we're checking out, and I'm hanging out with Chris Nolte from Propel Bikes.
Hey guys.
Good day, man. It's been interesting because, as you can see, it's a little bit rainy and wet, but we got those fenders, we got the lights. These are perfect bikes from the Netherlands, ready to deal with just about anything.
They're a little more used to that weather than they are out here in Southern California. So.
It was a good choice for today, right? You know, we're always looking at different bikes together, and I really appreciate your insights because you've been selling these for a while now. When did you pick up Gazelle?
I guess it's been several years now. You know what happened? They were managed by a different distributor, but then they took it in-house, and they're all managed by Gazelle USA, who's owned by Gazelle or Pond Group.
The Pond Group, yeah.
And yeah, it's been a great brand to work with, and you know, we really appreciate the heritage and the designs that they implement, where they're really made for this like comfortable riding and something that's very familiar, more utilitarian sort of riding. It was great for commuting and that sort of thing, which is excited to have them over here.
It's cool. I mean, this company's been around since like 1892.
1892.
So way back, 160 plus years at this point, and they're recognized. I got to show you guys this. It's pretty cool. They got the little badge here. So yeah, 1892, and it's a Royal Dutch brand. That's what the little crown is about. So that's a designation that the royal family offers to companies that have been around for over 100 years that are offering a good product and maybe some sustainability mindset, just something that represents their culture well. And these bikes definitely do a good job. Gazelle is known for being high quality. They do like UV testing on their paint and kind of overexposure and saltwater testing and stuff, because those are the environments that they deal with. So having that here in America, where yeah, it also rains, it also we got the ocean just down the street.
Yeah, for sure.
It's nice to have. You know, you do pay a little bit more for some of these premium bikes, but they're partnered with Bosch in this case. So we've got a Bosch Active Line Plus motor. You can see the badging on this side. Really nice design on this thing. It's very compact. It's 7.1 pounds versus the older, still in circulation, but the Performance Line motors, they're more like mountain bike level, a little bit louder, maybe not quite as efficient in terms of power usage. And I want to come over here because another one of the big upgrades is that battery, but they are still distributing the C8 right there, and this one has the Performance Line just like we're talking about. So 8.8 pounds versus 7.1, a little bit louder, a little bit more power hungry, and it has a smaller size sprocket. So it spins at 2.5 revolutions per every crank revolution, and that creates a little bit of like reduction gear drag. You're not gonna have that over here, even though you can't really see it because they got this really nice fully enclosed plastic chain cover. This is a 36 tooth cassette, just standard size, so every single crank revolution gets a single revolution of the chain ring. You can pedal it backwards. Again, you can't really see that, but the chain is actually cycling through here, and it's just a little bit more familiar. It's a more standardized system, and I like that. You know, it's kind of neat to see that you're getting a little bit less torque. So this one offers 63 Newton meters of torque, whereas here we're down to 50 Newton meters of torque, but it's still very capable for this type of application. And we have an internally geared hub here. This is the Shimano Nexus Inter 8. We've got a half grip twist shifter here that can be updated on even at standstill, so we're not hurting the bike by shifting gears here. Let's say that you're riding around town and you have to come to an unexpected stop, maybe just a traffic signal. You can shift down, and then you can really empower that mid-drive motor. So you'll notice that the weight on this bike is really well positioned low and center, including the battery. We got the Power Tube 500 right here built into that down tube versus this original C8. That's just frame right there, and the battery is up high, okay? This is a Power Pack 500. It's the same capacity, but that weight, about 6.3 pounds, is up high, and it's gonna create the potential for a little bit more frame flex, and the bike's just rear heavy. It takes up some of the capacity of the rack, so if you wanna have like a child seat or cargo or panniers or something, this rack's completely freed up, and it's up to 27 kilograms of weight, which is roughly 60 pounds. pretty impressive. And we were talking about some of those child seats, like Thule Yepp has one that clamps onto this pretty well.
Yeah, so the traditional Yepp style, this actually has a window which would accommodate it here, which is really great. And then for the new style, the next style, NEXXT, that has a clamps which actually grab the outsides of the rack, which is a little bit more universal. But the great thing about this is, generally speaking, the child seats can accommodate up to 45 pounds,
Yeah.
but the child seat itself can weigh upwards of 10 pounds. So at that point, you're about 55 pounds. So something like this, you can have the child seat, a child at 45 pounds, and you can also have some cargo on it. So it can actually handle all that weight, where a lot of times racks more commonly are going to be rated around 40 pounds or so. So you can't really have that full use of that capacity. They're really smart of them, and you could tell that they're really thinking of the utility and the use scenarios of, you know, carrying children, which is quite common.
And the style. Like, check this out. We've got a little support arm here that's color matched to the frame. And so many times these racks, they've got like silver like mounts that go here, right? And they aren't quite as well supported below. I think this one actually has like a metal piece that goes under the fender right there. So it's much more stylish. These fenders are also a big highlight for me. Yeah, you go ahead and do that. He's gonna turn on the display and activate the lights. Look at this. So we got what appears to be 4 little LEDs and these light tubes. So you can see this thing from the side, and it just gives you a much better visual footprint, including reflective sidewall stripes on those tires, including puncture resistance on the tires. Here's the front fender slash light, and it's got the same little light tube, and then that really bright, awesome headlight. So I like that. The only complaint I have about this is that they've got this little 30mm monoshock thing. I don't think it's super adjustable. There might be a little bit of preload adjust under that cuff, but you know, you're not getting a ton of suspension travel, but it's plenty for on-road. It's better than nothing. And I was gonna say the fender and the light could be bouncing around a little bit versus if they were mounted up here a little bit higher. But since you've got this really awesome, extra tall, adjustable angle Gazelle switch stem, which you can adjust, you just slide this down and then kind of pull up the lever. Chris might do it for us here. Look at that. So you can adjust this on the fly. Maybe this is a family bike, or maybe you feel sporty on your way to work, and then after work the traffic's heavy and you want to be more heads up. This is that Dutch, like very upright, comfort-oriented body position. Swept back handlebars, ergonomic grips. They've even got like a little like twister bell thing built in, which I think is really cool. And then an additional reflector up high. So there's a lot of safety going on with this thing. And I really appreciate that. And then back to style, they have 3 frame colors. There's like dark blue, this kind of green, which looks really nice. You know, where we're at right now, it's just kind of like office park, government buildings and stuff. And this really fits in, it's very elegant. And then I think they also have silver. So silver would be really visible from the side, just even more reflective. But they're all sort of a matte, which, you know, is neat. Some of the other Gazelle bikes have been a little bit shiny. You can see that here with the Arroyo C8, kind of a still maybe satin, not quite gloss. We were looking at a couple other models the other day that are a little bit more affordable, but they've dropped the price on the C8. This is $31.99 now, and then this is $35.99. So you're paying a little bit extra. It's like, what are you getting? The integrated lights are really nice. You've got a kind of an upgrade when it comes to the whole bike with that integrated power tube battery. So the weight distribution that we talked about, and then the appearance of this thing much more like a bike, and then freeing up that rear rack. And a couple little updates. One of the things that I really like that both of these bikes have is the hydraulic rim brakes. So these are the Magura HS22 with adjustable reach, tool free. So you can bring these in if you have smaller hands or you're wearing gloves on a cold day. I really appreciate that. And then rim brakes, it's sort of a hardware feature or component that I'm not used to seeing in the United States as much. And I was curious because I've always celebrated like disc brakes. Those were the big thing when I was growing up with mountain bikes, and it lifts the braking surface so it's not going to get as dirty if you ride through a puddle or dusty trail, but you don't get the same mechanical advantage as you do with a rim brake or a linear pull brake. And you know, hydraulic is really nice because it's not going to stretch like mechanical. So these benefit from mechanical advantage. They benefit from hydraulic being easy to pull and consistent both on the left and right levers. And if you park at a bike rack, a disc brake rotor can get bent. You know, like say there's a tube right here, a bar that you're going to lock to. Disc brakes are vulnerable. So apparently that's why they do that in the Netherlands and in other parts of Europe. These hydraulic rim brakes are pretty popular, and they've got like a little release lever, so it's a little bit easier to change a flat tire or whatever, but that shouldn't be an issue because we got the Schwalbe Energizer Plus. These are 700C, which is like 28 inch by 1.75, a little bit wider, even though they're fairly slick for urban environments to be grippy, but smooth. Not going to make a lot of noise, not going to be creating a lot of friction the way a mountain bike tire would. So it's a great combination. And then they say 50 km, so rated to go a little bit faster. The new Addix rubber, and then the G-Guard 5. That's the puncture protection we're talking about. And look at these rims. They've got reinforcement eyelets. Interesting spoke pattern here. These are extra strong 14 gauge black. They match that internally geared hub. And coming back to the bike rack situation, you don't have a disc brake rotor that can get bent, and you don't have a derailleur hanging down that can get kicked, or if the bike tips, it's all inside that internally geared hub at the rear. And then this is a horizontal sliding dropout, so you can tension that chain. The chain's completely clean. It's picked up. It stays off the street and off of your pants. We are riding around with pants today because it's cold, and we're just trying to stay warm. And this bike's keeping us clean and comfortable. So we were talking about that monoshock up here. We're talking about the ergonomics. We've also got a suspension seat post. This is postmodern, 27.2 millimeters. Not a ton of travel, but enough. And then a really nice saddle. I'm a big fan of this. This is a Selle Royal Hz, and I think that's a Hz saddle. We're looking at kind of the Euro specs and stuff. I'm trying to give you as good of details as I can, including this little shim. See that silver piece? The seat tube itself is a unique width. Or diameter. It's 29.8 millimeters, whereas the post is 27.2. So they need that shim to sort of tighten it up a little bit. It gets the job done. And maybe this thicker tube or this like larger tube gives the frame a little bit more strength. We were talking about frame flex earlier, having a little bit more weight high and towards the rear with that battery. This one still has a little bit of frame flex. Chris, will you grab the handles and just like shake the bike? So it's like, it's not too bad. I mean, thank you. He's really doing a good job.
I mean, this is really pushing it, but I think overall, actually, in my experience, that they do a really good job, and they intentionally design the bike in a specific way, and the reinforcement here, and making this all one piece, and including the rack portion in that.
Yeah.
That was a really big deal to kind of limit that. But generally speaking, that is one of the challenges with a low step bike like this, that you will have frame flex. So great point you brought up.
The Medeo that we had the other day, it has the double down tube, and it has the rack battery. And there was a little frame flex, and there was a little bit of speed wobble even when I was going faster down the hill because I was upright and back. I haven't had that so much on this one. It's definitely a step up in terms of design. I've really enjoyed riding this bike, and I feel like they've kind of dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. It's totally feature complete. You got the fender. You don't even have to buy many accessories. The one thing it doesn't have, bottle cage bosses. No bottle cage bosses.
I feel like you don't even have to tell them that, Corey.
I know. It's a minor thing, and we all drink water. You could have a trunk bag, or sometimes you get like a cup holder right up here for your coffee. That would be really nice. I just don't understand. I mean, and maybe it's back to that frame flex thing. That's part of why I'm bringing it up right now, is because you don't want to reduce the strength of the frame, but they do have like an anywhere adapter from SKS. It's like a little clamp thing that creates bottle cage bosses. You could use that for a folding lock or for water. This isn't exactly like a sport bike quite as much as commuting and neighborhood, but it's a really nice one. Yeah, I like it. Can we do the battery thing real quick? Because we got this cool Defender lock. This is called a cafe lock or a frame lock, and he's creating, sliding it down. Hopefully you can see there's like a silver bar that goes through. It's a little bit locked, but basically it secures the rear wheel so people can't just ride off with your bike, giving you enough security to slip into the cafe and get your coffee or whatever. But that same key, look at that, goes into a little locking core on that side.
And then here, it's unlocked, but it's not unlocked all the way. And you might wonder, like, why is it not pulling off?
Yeah.
You actually have to release this little lever here, and it's kind of for security to prevent the battery from popping out on its own.
Unexpectedly.
If you forget to lock it.
There we go. And there's the little interface. That was a great example, Chris. There's a little button pad that he was pressing on top. I really like that they've got the locking core up high along with the charging port, because this battery can be charged on the bike. There it is. See, that's out of the way. Some of the other bikes, they put that stuff down here, and I just feel like it could get kicked easier, if you're bumping these pedals or something. So I like that the kind of the sensitive bits are up high. You've got the same interface on the base of the battery right there, so you could charge this off of the bike. There's even a little LED 5-tick charge level indicator. Can I hand that to you?
Yeah, for sure.
It's about 6.8 pounds or something like that. It does weigh a little bit more than the rack battery, and some of that's because it's got this nice alloy casing and stuff. It's a beautiful design. Lithium ion cells, 36 volt, 13.4 amp hours for roughly 500 watt hours of capacity. There we go. And to really take care of this thing, you want to store it in a cool, dry location. And he's struggling with this a little bit because you got to unlock the core again. You can't just force it in. I think that's a pretty good overview. I'm going to put the key back in, and when I do, I'm going to release that little lock there, and now the key won't come out, so you kind of have to leave it in the bike. And for me, that's not a huge deal until you start to think about the user scenarios here, like you lock the bike and then you've got this key that's not on a keychain, so you don't want to lose it. On the other hand, maybe you do put it on your keychain, but now your whole keychain's like jingling around and bumping into the tires, so it's there are some other cafe locks out there where you can take the key out, but apparently this is like a Netherlands thing. Maybe it's a part of the standard that they have.
Yeah, it seems to be, and yeah, I kind of prefer the alternative, but yeah, it's not a huge thing, and I guess if somebody really wanted to, you could potentially swap it out. But
I'm just trying to scrutinize this and look at all the little details and be consistent across the reviews that I do. So here's the display. This is the Bosch Purion. It's a tiny little display, fairly easy to reach, and it leaves that cockpit clean for maybe adding that little cup holder we talked about earlier. There's a power button on top, so I just pressed it, and you can actually see the backlighting right now. If we want to turn off the headlight and the tail light, we just hold that plus button for a second. There we go. But the display itself is still backlit, so that you can't really turn that off. And that's kind of fine. It works. There's a plus and a minus, and that allows you to adjust assist level. And then there's a walk mode button. There's also a little micro USB port built into the side of it, but it's not really functional for charging. It's just for diagnostics and software updates, which is disappointing to me because, you know, sometimes it's nice to have a functional one, and that is the case over here. So we've got the Bosch Intuvia. This display is larger, it's removable, it's got the functional USB, it's larger, easier to see, and it does still work with the switch, but it might kind of get in the way a little bit. You have to tip it forward if you're gonna do the adjustments. So I've seen more and more bikes moving to that little compact display. You know, and again, it gets the job done, but you miss out on some things. It doesn't have your trip distance, or I think it's like average speed, max speed. It doesn't have a power indicator. It doesn't have a little clock or trip time, that's it. But it does have the other readouts. So we've got speed right there in the top. If you hold minus and tap the power button, it'll switch from miles per hour to kilometers per hour and back. And then down here, we've got that 5-tick battery infographic, much like we saw on the battery itself. So it's 20% steps, which isn't super precise. And that's where it's nice that they have a range estimate here. So if I press the plus button, we go from off to eco. Now it says, okay, we estimate you can go 68 miles if you ride like you've been riding. It takes the last mile of riding into account. So that's pretty cool. Press plus again, Tour, Sport, Turbo. Turbo is the highest level of assist, and it's way down to 26 miles. So it's cool. It's much more precise than the battery infographic. You hold minus again, it shows your level of assist. Minus again, we got your trip distance, and if you want to clear that, you hold plus and minus. And then you can hold minus again for total distance, 54 miles. So that's kind of cool. The other thing about this, I kind of skipped over because it's windy and it's rainy, and you know, we're doing our best out here, but I didn't really talk about the motor a whole lot. And I really think that Bosch deserves some extra attention here because they've done a great job. This mid-drive here, it's using the same sort of sensor control systems that a lot of the other higher-end Bosch motors do as well. It's not really skimping. It measures the rear wheel speed right there with the little sensor, pedal cadence and pedal torque over 1,000 times per second. It's also listening for your pedal strokes and kind of like this wave of pedal input. And then if there's a spike, it says, okay, they must be shifting gears. So it releases some of the power so that you're not gonna create a derailment or stress the chain or grind the gears as much. And Bosch has done an update, I think in like 2017, 2018, where it even does shift detection for internally geared hubs, which is phenomenal. So it's still not perfect. I still kind of ease off when I'm shifting gears. And sometimes if you try to shift and you're really pedaling hard, you'll kind of hear a grrr, and it won't work. I've also learned online that if you go to the 4th gear and then you line up that little yellow dot with that other dot, that's how you can adjust this. So you can kind of basically tune this up yourself. Otherwise, it's fairly sealed, it's clean, it's durable. I think that's kind of it, you guys. Again, I'm sorry if it feels like I'm rushing a little bit. I'm just trying to keep us dry and survive here. Do you feel like I missed anything, Chris?
No, I mean, I think that's more or less it. You know, we talked a little bit about the ride position, which I think is something really important there, and
yep.
and that easy entry, which I think that's something that sometimes even an expert like yourself can
kick the.
You know,
you're so right. I didn't even
like yeah, trying to hop on the bike like this, you
yeah.
know, but really it's so designed just to be able to hop on, and then even sometimes I find, you know, like come to a light and hop off the bike really quickly, and it really makes it quite nice. But
I love the low standover height,
yeah,
and the 3 frame sizes. So I mean, it's all of that stuff is easy to just kind of overlook, but that's part of the higher price. These guys do sell through shops. They've got that comprehensive 2-year warranty, as well as like a 10-year frame warranty.
Right, and the bikes are built in the Netherlands, which is a pretty big deal. I mean, considering all the stuff that, you know, it's just manufactured and, you know, in a different way. They put a lot into their bikes, and it's a real attention to detail, which I really respect them for.
I agree, man. I've seen some of the videos. There's a guy like painting the pinstripes on one of the bike. I mean, there's a certain level of craftsmanship here that you do notice when you ride one in person. So I think that's what we should do. Maybe hop on this thing, get wet, go for a little ride, try not to get run over. This motor system is super quiet, so I'm going to take it all the way up to turbo. It's the highest level of assist, and that's going to allow you to maybe hear it, but with all the traffic and stuff, you'll just have to take my word for it. Like, the performance line is louder, and part of that's the, you know, 2 times 2.5 RPM boost from the reduction gearing. By the way, this bike's about 58 pounds. We were weighing it earlier, and that's not too bad considering all the accessories and the bigger battery and the power tube design. Wow, look at the art. The wind's kind of blowing the tiles and stuff. Definitely appreciating those fenders right now. Let's see how Chris is doing. Looking good, buddy. You want to turn on your lights real quick?
Yeah, good idea.
This one also has the side cutout, but it's just not quite as pronounced. They're both aimable. Would you mind switching bikes with me?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see here. So Chris is just on tour, taking it easy. I'm gonna go up to turbo and lead on. I don't know if you could hear it, but it is a little bit louder. I'm just gonna turn here. Oh, there we go. There we go. There's that tail light we were talking about. I want to go on your right this time. Okay guys, it's kind of a boring view on this bike because you can't even see the chain, but we've got a 36 tooth chain ring up front, 18 tooth in the rear, and again, 1-to-1. So we've got a standard size chain ring here. I'm gonna pedal through, I'm gonna ride in turbo mode just so it's super pronounced. And then I wanted to call out that this comes with the faster 4-amp Bosch charger, which is really nice. Weighs about 1.7 pounds, easy to take with you. So coming back to that battery, take it up into the office to charge, or maybe inside if you have to leave the bike outside, or just in a place where there isn't really an outlet. Maybe it's a covered garage or something like that. It's nice to keep the battery in the cool, dry location because those extreme temperatures are tough on it, but you also want to try to store it at like half full and avoid going, you know, basically stay between 20 and 80% just to not stress those cells. Yeah, I'm gonna hop on this thing, pedal around, and let you see what it's all about. very nice. Rim brakes are working really well. And I wanted to also mention that this motor, it supports up to 105 RPM versus the performance line on the older C8. It goes up to 120 because it's a performance motor. So this one, it can't support quite as fast spinning, but in a city environment, I don't know if it's not really a big deal. You know, we've got that internally geared hub, which is durable, a little bit heavier, but it's not a super fast shifting thing. It's just not a performance bike. So for me, this is more about durability and comfort and stuff. And it's definitely getting the job done. I'm loving the suspension seat post. Okay, the goal with this view is to show you that fender and just to give you some idea of how well it's gonna protect your feet and your pants from water, since we've got a really wet day here. Feeling pretty good, and the fenders are fairly quiet too. Well, you guys, we're a little bit wet, but we basically made it back, and Chris was pointing out that the front fender is actually really low, so it gives you more protection than a lot of other fenders that we looked at.
Yeah, I think it really works quite well in this sort of environment, and pretty happy about that. You know, to keep your shoes dry. It's something that oftentimes, you know, regular fenders where they might end here or something like that, they don't actually get all the way down there. And, you know, so I think that's something important to consider, especially riding in a wet environment.
This is just a perfect day to test this. I might need to get like an actual water resistant coat for next time, but I'm glad you guys could join us. As always, I appreciate feedback, corrections, comments and stuff. Maybe you live in the Netherlands and you own or enjoy this bike, or you've had another Gazelle and you appreciate it. I'll have the full written review with the width, the length, the weight, some of the other details we discussed back at ElectricBikeReview.com. I hope you guys have fun out there. Ride safe, especially in the rain or dark or whatever. I love you. Take care. See you next time.